Welcome to Model Horse Tack School. My name is Carrie, and today we're going to start a primer on harnesses. I'm not going to be able to do every single harness that's out there. So what I want to do is give you an understanding of harnesses so you know why pieces exist where they are, when they would exist, and when they wouldn't. Okay? So let's start with a primer. And this is Guide to Model Horse Tack Making, Model Horse Tack by Susan Bensema Young. She's lovely. She still sells this book in PDF format, I believe, on her website. Timur Star 2, I think it's TMR2 is the website. You can search by her name. She's also on Facebook in the Tack groups that I'm in. But on her website, she still keeps a blog going. You can get this book. Why I like this book is this illustration tells you everything you need to know about harnesses. Now this is a light harness, but it does apply to heavy harness, okay? So heavy harness is with the collar and hames. So we're just gonna go light harness, and then I'll show you how that applies. So first of all, we have that which pulls, and that is the breast collar and traces, or in the case of a heavy harness, it would be the collar and hames and the traces, okay? So this shows you where your poles need to be in relation to the shoulder of the horse. But here's what happens if that's all you have, right? Then you have a problem with what happens with those poles. They're not really, the poles are not attached. Think about that, okay? So then you have the support. And so the support is for the shaft, and it's also supports the hames, okay, to make sure they stay in place. So that's what the centerpiece is for, and that includes your crouper, all right? So all of this is simply to take care of the poles and the traces and keep them from getting tangled into the horse's legs, okay? So now we have braking, which also includes reversing, okay? So the breeching helps to stop whatever the cart is, and also so that they can back up whatever it is, right? So that's the purpose of the breeching. You'll see a lot of times in a 4-horse hitch, the ones in the front, horses in the front, don't have a breeching, because it's the horses in the back that do the braking and the backing, okay? Makes sense now why you'll see that? All right, and then you have control, steering and control, and that is your bridle, okay? Because without it, you know, they could be a runaway. So that is your pieces, okay? That which pulls, that which supports, that which provides braking and backing, and that which controls the horse. So this is a great diagram to have. It's worth it. She does have patterns in here if you're looking for more patterns. And then there's pictures of some of the things that she has made. Her braiding is really nice. And she does have another harness pattern if you don't like mine. Now, this is from my harness book, which I never published. So it's about 90% done, and then life got in the way. So we're going to go through this, okay? What pulls? On a light harness, there's your breast strap, there's your hames. On a heavy, you got the collar and hames, and they do the same thing. And these straps attach to the hames, okay? And then you have the padded collar so that they can pull harder. Usually you'll see light horses in light, you know, no draft collar, right? And then heavy horses in the heavy collar. Not always, because it really is going to depend upon what they're pulling, right? It's always, it depends. Okay, let's do some terminology here. Starting with the breast strap, there's a trace buckle, so there's a buckle for the trace. You always have, well, here's the trace, that's the actual strap. and then you always have an adjustment at the end, okay? Usually it's hooked on, I was using a lobster claw there. Then you have the neck strap. Pretty simple. Makes sense, right? Then the collar and harness, you have the hames, that's the actual wire. You'll have a ring on either side, which is called the rein ring. The collar is the padded collar that goes around their neck. There's a piece of leather that the buckle attaches to. So there's some attachment here, and that's called the trace chaff. And you also have a trace adjustment back here. So the collar has names too, part names, and this is important when you're looking at the pattern, that you know what I'm talking about for this collar. So we'll have a pattern for this collar. The cap is at the top. The rim is basically the wire that goes around the front. The fore-wale, of course, is in the front. You have the after-wale, and that's the padding in the back. Body side, so the inside is called the body side. The neck is the inside top, and then the throat is at the bottom. Okay, that should make sense because it's around the throat of the horse. All right, here's the hames, and I made these out of wire and solder and jump rings, so you can. Okay. So your single horse hitch is going to be different from your multiple horse hitch. Okay. So you have your upper connector. These are rein ring turrets. So that helps guide them then into the rein ring that's on the saddle. Okay. So you're trying to keep them from being tangled. Here's your trace connectors. So you put the chaff on the trace connectors. All right. And then the lower connector. So this is just a piece of wire, and I soldered this connector in metal, and I soldered these jump rings. It's not really that hard. This here is then for multiple horse hitch. Okay, so this is decorative, the hame ball, but again, I made these. There's a hook to hold this loop together. Your check rein ring. So the check rein on a light harness is different than on a heavy harness. So you have a check ring to make sure you keep the horse's head up so that it doesn't, go down to like scratch its knee and end up getting tangled in all the other straps. So that is what the check rein does. It's just keep the horse from trying to get his head on the ground and graze and whatever. You keep it at a height that's safe for the animal. Okay, here's your trace connectors, and they have a shaft ring. Okay, what I used here is these are hinges for a dollhouse. So those are dollhouse hinges to get that shape. And then the traces would connect here. So that chaff piece would connect onto this hole. And then you also need that ring. And then you have your lower connector. So in this case, it's chain. I didn't put that in on that one, which is probably stupid. Okay. What backs or stops? Okay. So here's your breeching. Now it's going to look different on different animals. This here's a 2-strap. You could have a 3-strap. You could have a single strap. All right. Notice I'm not showing the crupper, which is really part of the saddle, right? But that's really what the breeching is. You have a hold back strap, your breeching strap, and then a hip strap to hold it in place. On a single horse hitch, you would use what's called shaft wrap. So it's a strap. It's just another strap. There is so much strap work in harnesses. Why I don't like harnesses, because I don't really like strap work. And there's a ton of strap work in a harness. All right, so you're going to use just a strap, however long it needs to be, to wrap around the pole and then attach to this. They call this a holdback. Okay, so your holdback strap wraps, and then the shaft wrap can wrap around the holdback to keep the holdback strap from slipping. If that makes sense. So they'll use multiple straps wherever needed to make sure that harness stays in place. If you have no breeching, which is possible, like sulkies and then the gigs, the really lightweight bicycle rimmed carts, for those carts, or maybe even for skijoring, which is where you're skiing behind a horse, you're not going to have breeching. You don't need breeching in that case, right? Because you're not backing up and you're not braking a cart. So you wouldn't need it. So you would use the shaft wrap. The skijoring I've seen, they have two poles that attach to like a tarp, and then you hold on to the back pole on that tarp. I should get pictures for you. But for skijoring, you would use a shaft wrap, but it's by the saddle. Okay. Hold back straps on a 2-horse hitch will either go from the breeching to the saddle, or they'll go from the breeching to the girth. There's a hook usually in the center of a girth. This would have one in the back, and so there would be a strap on either side that would attach there. Okay, the what holds. So this is what the saddle's going to look like. Maybe thicker, maybe more decorative, maybe whatever you want to call it. But these are the pieces you're going to need. You have the pedestal hook, and that for light harness is where you put your check rein. Okay. The crupper D, so that goes to the crupper. The turret, and really it's just rings on either side that you put the reins go into. The actual saddle, so that's what this is, the actual saddle. And then of course there's a lining. You have a back band, which is this one here. You have a girth. So the saddle is girthed, and then you have another ring with another strap. Let's see why. Okay. You have, again, here's your crupper D, here's your saddle pad, back band. Back band attaches to your shaft tug. This is where the shafts go in. So this, because it goes into a buckle here, allows you to adjust the height of your shaft band. Your belly band attaches to your shaft loops. So it goes back band through the shaft. So it goes back band to the shaft loop to the belly band. So it makes this large like loop. And the belly band goes through a loop in the girth. Okay, a crupper is a crupper is a crupper. So basically, back strap that goes through the loop in the saddle, tail loop, and then a series of buckles for adjustment. There's this thing called a false martingale. It's a strap that goes through the collar, so it holds the collar down in front, and then attaches to the girth. Okay. You have things called trace carriers. So a trace carrier keeps the trace lines in the correct position and out from the horse's legs. So a lot of times these are decorative. Here's another picture, okay? So here's your trace carrier. It doesn't have any decorative thing on the front. This one does. So they'll put a brass on there, a decorative brass. And then here's your trace carrier. And this is so it goes following that. So this here is a 2-horse hitch or more. And that's why you'll see the decorations on these. It makes them pretty. These are not decorated yet, but just showing what the straps themselves look like. So it would go through a loop on the saddle. Instead of the pole shaft, there would be a loop on that saddle that the traces go through. And then it goes through a series of trace carriers, however many are needed, 3, 4, whatever, in order to keep that trace in the right place. All right, let's talk about the bridle. Okay, you got your crown piece. We know about the brow band. We know about a throat lash. Gonna move that, change that. You got your blinkers, the face drop. It usually is your blinkers are attached to the face drop. So they're decorated to make them look pretty. Noseband bit. The blinker stay you can barely see, but the blinker stay would then go to your face drop. Then you have your over check rein. So you could have a chain, or you do have a chain that, in this case, and then that goes through the over check ring and then attaches to the other side. So there's no ring, it's an over check ring, and it's attached right here above the bit, in this case. All right. On a light harness, you would have a running martingale. Now, there's still a check ring, but it's in a different place on the light harness. Here are all the different bits that I pulled off of Rio Rondo that can be used in harness. It's going to depend. That's really what it comes down to. The type of harness, the type of horse. Now these are, they like these because different leverage for different horses. So let's say the horse needs more pull. You have one horse in the team that's a little bit heavy-mouthed, then you can get more leverage by putting it down further. A softer mouth, they can put it up towards the bit, and then it would be softer control. So every horse in the team could have the rein in a different place on the bit. Okay, here we go. Here's the check rein or over check rein. So it's up here at the brow band on the light harness. Goes and is hooked to that hook on the pedestal, on the saddle. Now the over check rein for heavy harness, both sides come together, same hook in the saddle, but it comes from both sides, and there is a ring on the collar specifically for your over check rein. So then you have decorations, and these things can be decorated at 10,000 different ways. Usually, though, I've seen ribbons, red ribbons and, whatever they have. But you can have, like the hames, you have your finials on your hames. You could do beads, wire, studs, ribbon, you can see all the different types of harnesses. Sometimes it's just decoration. If it's colorful or bling bling, most likely it's just a decoration. It really doesn't serve any other function. So here's brasses. Rio Rondo has a series of brasses. So this would be another trace, and this has two brasses on it. Here's the traces holders, and they have brasses on it, right? So you have the back trace carrier that would go over like the loin. For the face drop, that would look pretty. The false martingale cover, you'll sometimes see a triple, and then your breeching trace. So those are different places you will find the brass. You can also find them on the blinkers and the drop in front of in the face. Okay. Nail heads can be everywhere. I think we've seen that. This one here is the collar peak. It's an addition to the collar. So a lot of times they'll have a collar, and then this kind of covers the front. And that's what this is. It's just a cover for the front, and then the hames helps hold it into place. And usually up here is some kind of decoration, and there I just did a circle. So here's nail heads. Again, just decorations. You can put them wherever you want. So let's look at some, I'm trying to, in this, I was trying to only talk about the USEC classes. That's the United States Equestrian Federation. I think they have a new name now. That's how old this draft is. Either light or heavy harness, single hitch or pairs. And again, it depends. So here we have a couple types of harnesses. This is a light harness, no breeching, with a light bicycle cart. So this cart is like a sulky. It is so light, no breeching is required. But that's when you have that extra strap up here, and maybe even another one down here if there's a place for it, to keep your breeching in place. Your trace in place. But you don't have breeching, no breeching. So you would have that extra strap there to hold it in place. Then we have the another light harness, and this one, because the cart is heavier and you may have to back up, you have the breeching. Okay, so you have the whole thing here, but you only have one set of holders for your traces. Let's talk about the parts and pieces. A single tree on a one-horse hitch is the pole with the rings, usually hinged by a bolt. That's what this is called. Okay, some carts don't have the single tree. They'll just have posts with a ring in it, and that's on your single horse hitch. On your multi-horse hitch, you have a shaft with a tongue. The axle here would be attached to a cart. Now I made this one so your traces go here for each horse. So horse 1 and horse 2 traces. Okay. So whipple tree, there's a better picture. This is called the evener. It usually moves, so it swivels. That way, if one horse is pulling more, it can move so the other one can catch up, right? So this one back here pivots, and then you have a pole for each horse. Okay, and their traces go there. And that's the shaft that comes off the wagon. So this wheeler harness loop. So the horses in the back are called the wheelers because they're closest to the wheels, right? And they actually do the bulk of the pulling and the reversing. The way this works, the wheelers are the most important horses in the whole team. All right, so this is where your left side wheeler horse would be attached to with a strap. And then this hook is what allows them to add another whipple tree. Okay. You have the different hitch configurations. Here's the following configurations have specific terminology and may use either light or heavy harness types. Single horse, one horse, parallel shafts on either side of the horse. Pair, 2 horses side by side. Tandem, 2 horses hitched in line, one in front of the other. Unicorn, 3 horses, 2 side by side and 1 center of the rear pair. So it's like a triangle, 2 horses and then another one in front. 4 in hand, obviously we've seen that. That's 4-horse hitch. 6 in hand or more. Okay. Apparently 1995, 50 Clydesdales hitched to a wagon is the current world record. All right, now models that you would pick for a harness event, whether it's USET or something fun like skijoring. I would say most people are going to find something fun to do and won't be following these rules. Now that I've seen more of what people are doing, but there are some things you need to think of when you're picking a model for harness. So I would say look for, like with any tack, the things that I look for is the mane or forelock and obstruction to proper fit. Now, yes, you could cut and sticky wax it to make it look like it's on the horse. You could do that if you have a particular horse you want to stick a harness on. But if they have a mane that's in the way, they're probably not, they probably have a tail that's in the way. And they may be beautiful, but they're going to look horrible in a harness. Okay? So the tail and obstruction to the breeching or crupper. So I would stay away from any molded on tails because you're not going to be able to do the crupper. You're not going to be able to do the breeching. Again, you could cut and sticky wax if you want to do that. I don't recommend it. Mold has to have the proper attitude. So we all love like the Rearing Mustang by Chris Hess or the Semi-Rearing Mustang. Not suitable. Really not suitable. Nothing laying down. Nothing that's got too much disobedience in them or attitude, unless every single horse in the hitch has that attitude and they're working together as a team to accomplish a goal that suits that attitude. So there are some, harness events where they're racing, and if they're racing, then ATP to power is launching himself. He would be okay as long as all the other 3 horses are in similar. Like I would use 4 of the same model, basically, if you're doing that. Or if it's just the one horse, then make sure the event that they're in is suitable to their pose. Nobody grazing, nobody rearing, nobody shying away. And then you have to make sure they're actually in the correct gait. So, if it's a harness dressage, look at the gaits they use in dressage, harness dressage. And it's not going to be a gallop. They might have a stand. All of them need to do it if it's more than one. Trots. But which trot? Because they have only certain trots they like to use, and you're going to have to look at the rules for it to make sure that it's, because you will do the harness dressage like you do regular dressage, and you figure out what's the horse doing, where in the arena is it doing it, and if you can't find a test that's equal to that, then you can't use that model. So I would look into dressage harness. There's 3 events. And they're awesome, and they're fun to watch. I see them on YouTube all the time. Really cool. FEI has those. One of the things I look for is the model on the bit. So this can be very subjective. Usually, if they're on the bit, their head is tucked and their poll is arched. Now, if you're out having fun with your horse, doing just bareback riding, you don't care about this. But if you're going for a USET class, if you can find one that is on the bit, this same exact mold, one of them not on the bit. This is the Palouse model for Peter Stone. This one here is a factory custom of the same model, the same molds, head tucked, poll arched. So this horse would be good for like dressage or anything that's classical because it's on the bit. Color suited to the breed. We all know about that. I shouldn't have to say anything on that. And what real rules apply to the selected model. Okay. And we'll talk about classes for harnesses. There's usually only 2, maybe if you're lucky. Might only be 1. It might be one that says harness. And then you really, anything in a harness goes, right? But sometimes they'll have heavy harness and light harness. So heavy harness is with the collar and hames, and the light harness is just with a breast strap. So look at that. Sometimes they'll say fine harness. A fine harness is a light harness suitable for the show ring, made of shiny leather and gleaming metals. Fine harness is also referred to in the USEF Frisian breed class, with a single horse and a light show harness pulling a four-wheeled open-topped vehicle. In the broadest sense, fine harness refers to pleasure arena horse show classes with horses in light show harnesses. Okay, so that is a very particular United States Equestrian Team class. If you don't want to do that and use the USET rules, then you have to explain in your documentation what that is. You could put a horse in a harness with a gig cart and just say tottering off to get groceries at the local convenience store and wherever. You could do that. But if the rules say fine harness and not light harness, you cannot put that entry into that class because fine harness specifies a USET class. A lot of times there's no entries in harness, so they'll just go ahead and judge them. But we need people to be educated on different harness types to make sure the class is correct. So heavy harness has a collar. Light harness has a breast strap. Fine harness is an actual USET, United States Equestrian Team class. Okay, so it's even more specific than light harness. And then you have your racing harnesses for your standardbreds, which have their own additional straps, like those that keep a pacer pacing or keep a trotter trotting, which goes around their legs. I think they're called hobbles. Those are pretty simple. But that's my primer, or my elementary instruction on harnesses. Anyways, thank you for spending time with me today. Like, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel, and have yourself a really good day.